Welcome. I'm Jay Langston, the Executive Director of the Shenandoah Valley Partnership. We really appreciate you joining us for our 7th cooking class, and I can't believe it's already been 7, and we're going to change this up a little bit. We'll probably have some more people join us, but because this is a more complicated recipe, and for those of you, if you're cooking along, we decided we're going to start on the recipe right away because it takes 55 minutes. So with that, oh, and I should say, we are broadcasting this live from the Woodstock Brewhouse in Woodstock, Virginia, in Shenandoah County, in the Shenandoah Valley. You'll hear some themes along those lines of Woodstock and the Brewhouse and the Shenandoah Valley and the county here throughout the show. But you can see that I have got a great background behind me, and we're going to be using some of the products here from the Woodstock Brewhouse that you should have received yesterday when we shipped it out. So let's get started. So one of the first things, if you're cooking along, I hope that you got the email. You should already have your oven on and have it preheated to 350 degrees. If not, do that now. Second, what you need to do is you need to pour the Tipsy Squirrel that we sent along and have that warming up to room temperature as well, because if you mix it in fresh or cold, you're going to have a mess on your hands. I'll just say that. Third, if you don't have the baking soda that was recommended, I'm actually going to go through the process of making it so that you know how to go about do that. And finally, and I'm going to do this now, I sent it in a note, please remove this packet from your apples, because if you don't, you're going to find a lump in there, and that's not what you want in your process. So with that being said, I've got the dry ingredients, and that's what we're going to work on first. So take 2.5 cups of flour, and I'm going to do this so that I do not make a huge mess with this. Set it aside. And then 3 tablespoons of the sugar. And I know I'm trying not to go too fast because I know it's easier since I've already got all of this measured out. You still have to put some of the regular baking powder in here. The salt is in here. The apple spice amount that I'll go ahead and add. And then get this out of the way. And then the apples. And I've already pulled out the desiccant. I think that's the way you say it. I always say it wrong, but you know what I'm talking about. The packet that's in here that keeps it dry that you don't want to go into your mix. And then I'm just going to pour it in here. And it's the whole bag. Just pour the whole bag in there of Mother Earth apples in there. Yeah, easy for me to say, right? Should look like that. And then I'm just going to stir it up. You do not put in the wet ingredients to this. We're going to mix those separately. And so all I'm going to do is just get this combined. And it'll look like this. And you can see it. Simple enough. Okay, now we're going to start on the wet ingredients. So I'm going to put in the Tipsy Squirrel Brown Ale from the Woodstock Brewhouse. Matt, I'm going to get this in as many times as I can for y'all. One of the owners is standing off camera, as you can imagine. The butter, which is already starting to set up again. We had this melted, but I'll take care of that here. There we go. And this is how you make the compound. If you cannot find the baking, is it the baking powder or the baking soda? I can't remember. The baking powder without the aluminum. And the reason for doing this is because there is a potential reaction with the beer. And for some people, it really brings out a metallic taste. For me, it's like I can't use Splenda as a substitute for recipes, because when I use that in cooking, something, happens, and it's just a really strong flavor that I cannot deal with. So what we're going to do is you take the baking soda and you add 2 teaspoons of lemon juice or apple cider vinegar to this. Now I'm going to add this to this, and it's going to fizz up, as you see. And this makes the equivalent amount that you need to be put in there. And I'm just going to mix this up. And you notice I'm doing this over the bowl so that if it spills over, it gets in there properly. And then that's what it looks like right now before dumping it into the mix. And I'm going to go ahead and just scrape this in. And I'm going to double check that I've got all the ingredients here, because not long ago I was making shortbread and I forgot one of the ingredients, and you've never seen such a mess in an oven in your life. And I forgot the applesauce. Thanks. That's the reason I have help off the screen here to help me through this process, because I get to talking, and I have great respect for any of the professional cooking people that do this, because I can hardly keep up with what I'm doing. So I've got the applesauce, and I can't find my applesauce. Do I have it in the way? It's on the other side. It's on the other side of the crowler over here. I also need to put the walnuts in. This is not nearly as bad as the time that I was making the cookies and I left out the chocolate chips, but I was fortunate to get that done before I had put everything out. And this is the Buddy's applesauce from Bowman Andros. So somebody will be representing Bowman Andros is here with us today, and we will be talking to Sean here shortly. So I'm going to mix this up, and I'm going to use the whisk for this. And this doesn't have to be mixed up really hard. If the butter is melted well, this is not a problem. Mine is started to set up a little bit. In the scheme of things, this isn't going to matter, but putting everything together and in the order does matter. This has been an evolution for us with this recipe. We started with a far different recipe and have learned some things to go that really make a difference. So now I'm going to combine the two. And you notice we're not using a mixer, because you cannot. It will ruin the recipe if you do. This just has to be folded in. And let's see if I can change this around so that you can see this from the other camera. I am just going to mix this in and not dump it all over the counter. Well, mostly not dump it all over the counter. And then I'm going to just stir this enough so that all the ingredients are wet. But you do not want to continue to blend this because it will destroy the texture of the bread. And for those of us who have KitchenAids and think you need to beat stuff to death, this is what you will do if you use a mixer and put all of this together with the blending it. And so we have all of the ingredients in here. I'm looking over to my help to make sure I've got everything right. And it's almost there. And I'm just going to mix it a little more so that I don't see any flour or the powder. And it's ready. And it should look just like this. And so what I'll do now is I'll take the loaf pan, and this makes it so much easier to spray the batter into the loaf pan so that it will easily slide out. So I am just going to coat that. I like doing it liberally, and you just put the batter in. And if you're following along, I hope it smells as good to you as it does to me. It is great. I'll set this aside out of view. I've got a mess over here that you can't see. And I'll put this down. And it's ready. And now this is going to go into the oven, and it's going to go into the oven for 30 minutes. And Jen, I'm going to give this to you, and we're going to take it to the oven and set your timer. Okay, for 30 minutes. We'll come back to this, and then you have your aluminum foil ready and be able to handle it, because you're going to tint it, and then it's going to go in for another 25 minutes. So hopefully you were able to follow along with this, and believe me, you're going to love the results when it's finished. And so now that we have time and have gotten through making the beer bread batter, I would like to introduce Matt Close, who is one of the owners with the Woodstock Brewhouse, which is hosting us here.
Jay,
Matt, it's a pleasure. The provider of the Tipsy Squirrel Brown Ale and several others, different brews. I really appreciate you joining us and letting us do this show.
It was great that you guys came here to have the show here, so we're happy to have you.
Yeah, talk about the Woodstock Brewhouse.
So partners there's 8 of us total, got together back in around 2013, bought the building late 2013, started doing some recipes in one of the partners' garage, who's a home brewer. Finally opened in July of 2015, and we've been open since. Started out with like 6 or 7 flagship beers, and now we have about 18 to 20 beers that we rotate through. We try to keep 7 to 10 on tap all times, and we've since have expanded into a full-time restaurant 7 days a week. We have 3 to 4 ciders on tap, and then rotate wines as well from local vineyards.
Yes, and I noticed I didn't talk about the ciders here, but I see that you have the Old Hill cider too, which is one of our major farms here, the Showalter Orchards and the farms. They produce that, and you produce the beer. What a great combination!
It is. It's been great. So yeah, we're happy to have the ciders on, because not everybody can drink beer, unfortunately, but ciders are a good alternative.
That is. Talk about the building. Now, unfortunately, you cannot see the entire building. We're in an auxiliary bar. You probably got another name for it, but we're in a bar that is surrounded by, on 2 sides, this phenomenal patio a lot of natural light coming in, and it's not the main bar. We're able to do this apart from the rest of the building, but you have renovated a building. And tell us a little bit of the history, because it's a phenomenal.
So the building
location.
was originally built in the 1920s. It was a denim factory, and they made dungarees for the Navy throughout World War II. After the war, it converted to just a normal textile factory through the 60s and 70s. It changed hands a bunch of times. Real estate company, and then it eventually became a radio and TV station in the 90s and early
Really?
2000s. There's a big tower out there. So there's tons of sound rooms, insulation, and everything. So when we got the building in 2014, tons of insulation everywhere. So it was a lot to renovate, a lot to clean up, but basically gutted it down to the 4 bare walls and the hardwood floors that were underneath the carpeting and things like that. So it was actually a diamond in the rough. It was nice that we just kind of tore everything out, and just what was scratched from the 1920s worked out well.
And you have used some of the talent in the area to make some of your fixtures. There's some wall art that you can't see off air, and I'm mentioning all of these things that I can't really show you now, but that you have used local flavor in order to make this place the way it is, because it's an amazing location when you come in here with the way you have it.
Yeah, you can imagine for the 1920s, as we tore walls down, we found things in the walls and the rafters, and so we've got different pieces of artwork up of things that we found that are labels of old cigarette packs or things like that, different, denim patches that we've seen, needle and thread, so it's pretty cool.
Yeah. I guess sort of the last question for you, and maybe a tougher one, but sort of what is your inspiration for your beers and your flavors? And of course, everybody knows, they've seen it in my emails, I'm a huge fan of the Tipsy Squirrel. Name alone is great. The beer is good. It's really great too.
So like I said, one of the partners was a home brewer, and they just, through friendships and some of our coworkers that are also friends, we got together and said, craft beer industry is kind of coming, but we don't have one here in town, so let's start one up. We all liked beer, and we thought it was a great idea, and here we are.
Yeah.
The Tipsy Squirrel is one of our first beers after the 7 Bender, and so the name just fits for a nut brown ale.
Now the 7 Bender also it's a name associated with now a state park here, but it's for the Shenandoah Valley, not Shenandoah Valley, the Shenandoah River that is here, that meanders through the county, and literally you have a number of almost oxbow bins just stacked upon.
So yeah, if you go up to the Woodstock Tower, you can look down and you can count the 7 bends that go through, or right, not through town, but next to the town of Woodstock.
Next to the town. Well, we appreciate you hosting us. Really have been generous with both your beer and your time, and we look forward to continuing this.
Thanks, Jay. Appreciate it. Thanks for having me on.
Thanks, Matt. Our next guest is Sean Reynolds. Sean is the HR director with Bowman Andros, and you heard their name here. Welcome.
Thank you, sir.
I appreciate it very much. We figured that, first of all, we always enjoy having someone who is part of the valley, part of our food and beverage heritage here. You just talked with Matt, heard from Matt about that from the craft beer side. We do enjoy that. But apples and the other fruits and other foods is what you represent in many ways. So,
wonderful foods.
Yeah, wonderful foods. Sean, we'll get into some of the workforce talk here in a minute,
sure. But
one of my questions to you is tell us about Bowman. Bowman is now Bowman Andros, but it was originally Bowman, and there have been some major growth, and it's now an international company. I'll let you explain who Bowman is.
Everybody knows Bowman from many years. It's been around for 80. 1939 is when the operation began, and 11 years ago Andros acquired the business. And so globally, family-owned company acquired a family-owned company in the valley, and Bowman Andros is what we're known as here in the valley to keep that history here. It's something that is very, very important within Andros globally, to make sure that we do that and respect the culture locally. And over the past 11 years, there's been huge growth. First in the 2 plant sites that we have, so you have Buddy Fruits as a product that's part of your bread that you're making. And so it's an applesauce that we make, and the kids, or not only kids, but kids and adults both
Yeah.
love it, very, very well.
They know their audience well. This is easy. It was exactly what was needed for the amount in the recipe, and all you have to do is unscrew it, and the kids can just squeeze it.
That's right.
Probably on each other, but they probably
love
eat
it.
some too.
Yeah, huge hit. And over the past few years, we've launched a new facility. Everybody's probably seen it just right off the interstate. And it's a beautiful facility. It went into operation at the beginning of this year, which is great. And what it's focused on is ingredients. So when we think about fruit ingredients like raspberries, strawberries, figs, etc., that's the type of product that we're going to be making there for business to business application. So when you think about the type of customers that we want to provide services for, it's companies like Kellogg's and Bobo's and Nature's Bakery, where they use the ingredients for Nutri-Grain bars or Pop-Tarts or something of that nature.
Yeah, and that's a part of the industry that the public, doesn't really know about, that you're really doing that B2B business for all of these other operations. And you had an expansion relatively recently as well. Was that all part of the B2B part? And talk about some of the products that you actually make here as well, because some of them are probably household names.
So we have Buddy Fruits is the brand name that we have, and then we also have a private label sales side. So when you think about your big box stores like your Walmarts and Targets and so forth, when you see the pouches that are in their brands, that's what we provide from an applesauce perspective. We also make a product that's in your like half-gallon jars or gallon jars, what's known as PET, or the 4-ounce cups, where it's a single-serve cups from an applesauce perspective. We do that business. On the B2B, it's not going to be something that's known, back to your point. It's just a product that's made to help other customers with creating their products that's going to market. That's what we're focused on right now. We have other things that are coming down the line is what we're shooting for. So we want to get into things like nut spreads, peanut butters, almond butters, pistachio butters, and things like that. So hopefully, our business will grow in that nature as well.
Yeah. One of the topics that you and I talked about yesterday, this is not uncommon for everyone, we realize this, is its workforce.
Exactly.
You have a sizable workforce already. How many do you?
500 plus.
500 plus here. The unemployment rate in the Shenandoah Valley is approximately 2.5. And we, like everybody else, are kind of struggling with some of the workforce. And we were joking about, I was like, I want you to tell my audience that, we have workers just like falling from the sky.
Sure.
And Sean's response to that, we do. Its problem is keeping them.
It's keeping them.
Exactly. Let's talk about some of the things that you think we should be working on and some opportunities. This is something that we're trying to get a handle on as a region of how do we talk about career path opportunities and opportunities within our companies. And we didn't go into great detail other than we hit it at a high level, but I'd love for you to just kind of start the conversation, and we can pick it up here. What do you see as one of the things that we should be working on? Because all of our consultants, when they ask any region now, one of the first things is workforce.
Absolutely. So I think if we go back 25 years ago, 30 years ago, what did we see a shift in? University. We need to make that shift and be able to educate people that are young, that are in high school and so forth, that you can have a wonderful career in manufacturing, you can have a wonderful career in a skilled trades. This is what you need to do to become educated and raise that level of skill so you can perform in those type of roles. We need to take that approach just like we did 25 or 30 years ago to shift everybody to university to get a degree. And with that, continuing to just reinforce for folks to understand the value that comes back to those jobs and what's needed actually in the facilities from individuals to keep the business moving forward, because it's a critical role and they have a critical play in moving us forward.
Yeah. Well, and one of the challenges, they're twofold with that. One is, yes, we as society have done that. we have not told good stories about those job opportunities. That is something that we're trying to work on as a regional group, is that working with businesses, and we are trying to recruit businesses like yours and others on allowing us to capture sort of the positions that are needed the most, and then how do we tell the story about where that can lead? Because most of the people don't understand the manufacturing environment at all, which, by the way, is our largest private sector employment base in the Shenandoah Valley, is manufacturing.
Exactly.
And what that can lead to as a career path. Most of the parents still assume that the manufacturing environment is really dirty and ugly and so forth. Right. Well, it couldn't be further from the truth in the food and beverage industry.
That's right.
In particular. And we have, in a way, done ourselves a disservice by not providing that opportunity for an entry here in being a project engineer, or as you said, you started as your undergraduate safety engineering, right?
Exactly.
You know, and this and where that can lead to.
It's telling the story. You know, an analogy is when you see somebody who has weight loss, what generally happens? What have you been doing?
Right.
Right? They tell the story and then energy gets going. I think if you keep it simple, we just need to tell the story, but we need to get the individuals who have had that success to tell their story. I think if we take it right down to the grassroots and we involve everybody and empower them to tell their story, then good energy can happen and people say, oh wow, that's amazing. I'd like to experience that myself. And then from that, as we were talking about as well, is where can you go with it? You can move into general management. You can move, you know, in line with becoming an executive. If you have a desire to go to university, well, not only Andros, but other companies provide, right, college tuition reimbursement and so forth. So there's other paths that you can go after, but this could be a good start to anybody's career.
I'll put you on the spot a little bit here, but what do you see as the role of Bowman Andros in being able to do that in the future of Bowman Andros in the Valley?
Yeah, absolutely.
In that regard.
We're going to be the university. We're going to have the academy. So it's funny that you put me on the spot with it. One of the things that we're currently working on is we're going to have what we're calling BAP Academy. So Bowman Andros Products Academy, and it's starting right from the grassroots with our production employees, operators, into skilled trades, into general management from a junior level. What can we do to educate, train, provide leadership training, technical training, and so forth, so they do have a path. And quite honestly, stay with us, because that's going back to your original point that you were calling out. What can we do to retain the employees? Well, create a career path, but then tell them what it's going to be. So it's one thing to have programs, but how would you feel if somebody sat down with you and said, here's what the next 3 to 5 years look like, right? And you have it on paper. So it's tell them the path, showing the path, and then putting it into play.
I did not know that they were doing that. Now I'm really excited about an opportunity, because I think this is part of the story. We are fortunate in our region, and we were talking about this offline before we were on, but we have 10 universities and colleges in our region, and 3 of those are the community colleges, and you can imagine they've got the story down. But we have another 7 4-year institutions here that don't do a really good job of telling the story about those job opportunities here. Part of that is our fault. I think that we have not done a good job, and I say that both as a business community and economic developers, have not been talking with the schools and the career centers and the career counselors about, oh yes, manufacturing, yes, we know you're not thinking about line operators for this, but you have finance people, HR people, logisticians, general managers, business people of all kinds that you need to fill positions. This. And my phone, of course, rings while we're doing this.
Well, it's marketing, right? It's marketing and selling it, and building the partnerships. And that's what, as a business, we have to do. That's right. What you can help with as well from that perspective is the connection, and then inviting people out so they can see. No different than here we are at the brew house. My first time here, but you get to see and you go, okay, I connect to it now.
Yeah.
And it's how do you make that connection, and how early can we make that connection? And that's what the challenge is that we have to overcome.
Yeah. What's in the future for Bowman? What would you tell people that they need to know, both internally and our audience, about what they need to know about the Shenandoah Valley? Not to put you on the spot, but yeah, clearly.
Bowman's growing, so we have a huge ambition. You know, we'd like to see us triple in size over the next 7 to 8 years. The Valley, it's the best place to live. I'm from Virginia. I grew up east of here, about 70 miles, and have lived all over the U.S. And so I came back 6 years ago. But when I came back, we didn't talk about this, but it had to be in the Valley. If I'm coming back to Virginia, this is where I want it to be. So lots of outdoor activities to do. As you mentioned, there's universities that's close, and then the cities. Yeah. If you do have a desire to be in D.C. or Richmond, a couple-hour ride, you can be there.
Yeah. Thank you. I couldn't have scripted that better, and I did not script that. I didn't know that you were from here, but this is perfect. I appreciate it very much. Anything else you want to say before?
I think we're good to go. Now, welcome. I'm glad that you welcomed me here, and this was great.
I appreciate it. And we appreciate what you do and the long-term support. And French-owned company that's here, one of our now many international companies that are here in the Valley, and we appreciate what you do, and we'll keep it moving along.
All right, you got it. Thank you, sir.
Thanks, Sean. I will make a plug. We have a 5-year plan, and our number one priority are many of the things that Sean just talked about. We are going to be engaged in the workforce environment in a big way. My next guest is Brian Bird with Shentel. Come on in, Brian. He is the Government Affairs and Community Specialist with Shentel. Shentel's a name that you've probably not heard of, but it's all important for us in the Valley because it's telecommunications.
Yes.
Yeah. Tell us about Shentel. Tell us about what you do, Brian.
Yeah, so it's actually very interesting. You know, growing up in the area, when I was in high school, Shentel was, you know, that little brick building in downtown Edinburgh that had kind of odd little telephones that you could look at, or the place where classmates got summer jobs and internships. And it wasn't until I moved back to the Valley. I was in Northern Virginia for several years. Moved back to the Valley in about 2019. And then wound up getting a job at Shentel when I realized that just the size and the scope of the company and just how much that they do and have done for a long time, right? So headquartered in Edinburgh, Virginia.
Just up the road from us.
There's not a stoplight there.
Exactly.
And yet it has, I think, about as many employees as Edinburgh does residents. So you have tens of millions of dollars of some of the most advanced telecommunications equipment out there in these nondescript brick buildings in a sleepy little town. And so it really is a remarkable thing, and being able to be there is part of a lot of what we're doing now, you know, similar to what we were talking about earlier with Bowman Andros, is just a lot of growth, a tremendous amount of growth. You know, we're building all the way up as far north as Carlisle, Pennsylvania, as far east as the coast in Delaware, down through Suffolk, Virginia, and all the way over to the west to Blacksburg, up through West Virginia as well. It's so there's a ton going on, and it's providing, you know, primarily broadband. You know, we do phone and cable television as well, which are great, but broadband's a big thing, and a big part recently has been highlighted by the COVID pandemic, just the recognition that this is necessary for everybody. We need to have broadband out there. So I think in Shenandoah County alone, not the whole valley, just in the county, with assistance from the county and the state, federal, all the money that's going in towards those subsidized builds to get to places that don't have broadband today, you know, we're laying several hundred miles of fiber optic cables just in Shenandoah County.
This is something that to the state is very, you know, focused on behind. You know, we know everybody's dealing with the last mile issue in a region like ours, which is, you know, topographically challenged in many ways. I happen to live pretty well off of the main arteries in this area. It's a difficult issue, but there is broadband being spread throughout the region, and you're providing a major backbone in many ways to a lot of the communities along the Shenandoah Valley. Because for those of you who are not familiar with the Shenandoah Valley, our footprint alone, the Shenandoah Valley Partnership footprint, is 140 miles on Interstate 81. When you include the localities north of us that go up to the West Virginia line, that's 170 plus miles. And so it represents the difficulty that a company has in trying to provide, where that's, for our footprint, that's 375,000 people. So we're rural, we're rural,
Yeah.
Go ahead.
And just to say, the backbone piece, we've got fiber pretty much every inch of all that, from all the way up towards the state line, all the way down through Roanoke, Blacksburg area, Lebanon, Virginia. And that, it's kind of like when you're building a house, the foundation is the easy part. The expense is getting everything off of that. So the backbone is there, and it's a tremendous economic benefit. But the challenge has been, like you were describing, those last mile connections. And that's kind of the big exciting part that's happening now, is getting last mile connections to people out in Fort Valley, right? Which is just over the mountain. It's about as rural as you can imagine. But there's fiber running out there now. And so it's a very exciting point in the industry, really.
Now, we have to admit that Brian's boss is the chair of the board of the Shenandoah Valley Partnership, and so broadband is near and dear to us, but it's essential for the business environment now. And Brian, why don't you tell what you did for the Woodstock Brewhouse and us just for today so that we could do this?
Yeah, well, so, we didn't have anything to contribute that anyone could eat. So, in order to make sure that we could get this and have the event a success, we were able to get the speeds temporarily increased, for especially the upload speed, so that we could broadcast this live.
And it is greatly appreciated, and that's the kind of service that they provide across your footprint, us, because we've had to do this before. One of these days, maybe we won't be there where we have to do this, but it's nice to be able to reach out and have somebody who understands, who is headquartered here and has a major operation, and the work that you're doing. Where are we going? And now I know everybody's talking 5G. That's going to be a little more of a challenge in a rural region, but it's important for our client base when our companies are interested in locating here. It's essential. Broadband and connectivity is essential as electricity is now.
Yeah. Without a doubt. So there's been a lot of Shentel's history. We're a 120-odd-year-old company. We started out as a Farmers Mutual telephone company. And so kind of our wheelhouse historically had really been focused on those more rural markets, but not, extremely rural, kind of in that little bit smaller town like Woodstock. Over the past several years, the exciting part has been seeing the growth go in both directions, getting both more rural and more urban.
Urban, yes.
And moving on the technology of the future being fiber. And so we've got, like I said, several hundred miles going to the most rural parts of Shenandoah County. But we're also doing a whole lot. We built out Harrisonburg, we're building out Roanoke, we're building out all sorts of more major urban hubs throughout our Virginia, West Virginia, Maryland, Pennsylvania, Delaware kind of service territory. And so getting more urban, more rural at the same time. And to your point, 5G is going to be an absolutely transformative technology. But you can't get 5G without the fiber, right? So fiber is what feeds that 5G. So having the kind of fiber footprint that we have here, which again is remarkable for as rural a place as we are, that is what then enables those layers of additional technology that support the business industry, whether it's direct fiber to the company or whether they need 5G, wireless, whatever it is. It's an enabling technology as much as it is just a direct need.
Yeah. We appreciate it. So where do you see everything going? Phil, that's sort of the last question in your crystal ball. And the company and our other providers are doing a major effort in trying to provide this. The work that you did in Harrisonburg, which you alluded to, really providing the fiber into all the houses. You have major projects like that. But what's our next step?
Yeah, so I think the next step, first off, is fiber.
Is the fiber?
Yeah, fiber is where everything's going. I mean, the big, without trying to get too technical, the big difference with fiber is that fiber has what's called symmetrical speeds. So when you pull something down from the internet, you watch a video, right? That's your download speeds. And historically, with most cable markets, they have good speed download. But if you want to upload a video, live stream a video, do a video conference call for work, whatever that is, that requires you're pushing data back up, and those speeds have historically been dwarfed. And those have been very small relative to download speed because they're just technologically constrained, but fiber is able to offer those at the same speed. So working from home, all of those kinds of new applications that we're doing that require upload speed, fiber is what's going to do it. And again, like I said, 5G is going to be necessary, but it's going to have the fiber there first. So, it's tremendously good news, I think. There is a lot of increasing competition in the space, and that when you have a thriving economic environment with businesses competing, we all know that what that means for the end users, they get a better experience, better prices with that better experience.
Exactly. Yeah, and the pandemic really changed all of our world because we found out that people were working more remotely than we ever thought that they could, and that really is change. Well, Brian, thank you.
Yes, thank you, Jay.
I really appreciate it very much.
Thank you.
And are we at the time because, yes, okay. Thank you, Jen. You cannot see Jen off of it, but it is 30 minutes is up, and what you need to do, it should look like this. It is not done. And of course, we're cheating a little because we do have an example already prepared, but what you need to do is take your aluminum foil and simply tint it. And if you do not do this, you will not like the result you're going to get in 25 minutes from this. And so now this goes back into the oven. Thank you. Same temperature, everything's going, just goes back in the oven for 25 minutes and just let it go if you're cooking along. Next guest and our last guest is Stephanie Lillard. Come on, Stephanie. Stephanie and I have known one another long before I got here to the Shenandoah Valley. She was in a different locality at that time, but she has rejoined us in the economic development, and she represents Shenandoah County. Welcome.
Thank you, Jay. Delighted to be here.
And she is the new Business Retention and Expansion Manager. Or did I get it backwards?
No.
Expansion and retention?
Nope. Business.
Same thing either way, right?
Business retention and expansion.
Expansion.
Now you
yes.
have me second down to myself here. Yeah.
I've already told her she could not work with me because I tend to just go, oh, let's do this and then we'll plan it later. Talk about, first of all, Stephanie, I got to brag on her a little bit. She has been a director of economic development. She has worked for the Virginia Tourism Corporation. She has supported us in many ways over time, particularly with the tourism side. And now she is working for Jenna French, who is the director of the department here in Shenandoah County and could not be here today. But Stephanie knows the county well. She has grown up in the Shenandoah Valley, and it's great to have you in this role. You want to talk about the county a little bit? You want to talk about what you're doing and the purpose for why your position was created and why you're here?
Sure, I'm happy to do that and appreciate the opportunity. So yeah, I joined the team, I think it's been 30 days now that I've celebrated my anniversary with Shenandoah County Economic Development. And as you mentioned, business retention and expansion is my role. And so the reason why we have established this position is in 2019, Shenandoah County had updated their comprehensive plan and strategic economic development component. And in that, the county had decided that for them a priority was going to be business retention and expansion. We want to take care of our existing business. We understand the asset that they are and the value that they bring. And so, and I'm trying to think earlier in some of your conversation with Bowman Apple and talking about, really trying to work with our locals, the workforce, and the practitioners in economic development, our entrepreneurs and business owners, to adopt kind of the morale and sense of belonging here. We want them to see the value in being a county resident and working for local employers and their contribution. And so we all have to be singing from the same sheet of music and be advocates for our community. And so with that, that's part of what we feel like is necessary from the county's perspective, is getting out and engaging with the...
Pause just for a second.
Okay. Did it drop?
Yeah, I don't know. Well, I'll give you a point. I'll give you a point.
Okay.
Say it's not Shentel's fault.
I'll make sure to do that. This happens.
Okay.
You're on a roll. Remember where you were.
I know, I'm trying to think, where did it cut off?
I'll just...
Oh, we're doing pretty well on time.
Yeah, rolling right through it.
Have we had any questions at all?
No, I'm trying to send a note out to them, but I can't send a note unless they ask a question.
Stuff happens.
Blame it on the new girl.
No. I'll take the blame of that. Y'all's too important. And I was like, I stepped on the mic, which would have nothing to do with it. But they don't know that. They wouldn't know that.
Yeah, and all your codes.
Thanks for showing up and just be willing to join in.
Yeah.
I appreciate that.
Yeah.
You can talk about anything you want.
Okay. All right.
You can see, it is not a professional. John is professional. Me, I'm just winging.
So they're a local company?
Appeal Production.
Oh,
Yes.
okay. All right.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. John is one of the founders. John and Andy.
Yeah.
And
So I've only ever worked with Andy.
yeah.
Yeah.
Andy's the one that we see most time. When we All right, we're back. Sorry about that. That was nothing to do with Shentel. We can tell you that right now. We already promised. We had that covered. So we're going to pick up where we left off with Stephanie providing some good information and me listening.
Okay, all right, yeah. So as I was saying with the business retention and expansion program, and part of it, what we feel like is very necessary, is getting out and letting our businesses know that we want to support them. We want to understand the challenges and opportunities that they've identified, and we feel like by doing that and then being a matchmaker, if you will, to the resources that we have available in the valley, in the county, surrounding area, that is going to, I think, instill in them, again, a sense of pride and assurance that Shenandoah County cares, the valley is a good place to be, et cetera. And so with that, then potentially we will do well with helping those businesses to be sustainable. But again, earlier, as I mentioned, really being strong and potentially expanding, therefore providing additional jobs for our residents. Yeah. So.
This is something that we're excited about because you and I know, having been in economic development for a while, if you don't take care of the businesses that you have no hope of growing new businesses to come in.
Yep.
You know, because they're the predominant source of our growth most of the time here in the past. And you've got a very good mix of companies too. While we have focused on the food and beverage today for this show, you have a lot of other companies that are beyond just food and beverage. Did you want to shout out? I don't mean to put you on the spot. I know some of them, like Mercury Paper is a good one, and the International Automotive Component Corporation, I think.
That sounds
Bottom
great.
line is that Shenandoah is not just a one-trick pony, is what I'm trying to say.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, we do. We're blessed and fortunate that we have some diverse industry for sure that includes the employers that you mentioned, but also our arts and culture, looking at the small business and some of the recreational, as the Valley, we've identified in the tourism industry, that outdoor rec. And so, again, we really focus a lot on trying to understand the demands and opportunities of that. And so we, again, right now, kind of the platform is it's a good place to live and work, and we have a very inclusive workforce and industries.
I'll give a little plug to Stephanie and Jenna French, who is the director again. Shenandoah County is really in a transition. It's the northernmost part of our footprint, but it also more closely aligns with Northern Virginia because you're closer to Northern Virginia. And we're starting to see more professional and business service clients that are interested in, because the northern part of the county is not far from what we traditionally defined as Northern Virginia.
That's right.
In the area, and so we're starting to see the activities. Goes back to the Shentel conversation. We've seen our first data center project at the beginning of this year. Now we haven't gotten it, probably won't get this one, but that's like opening the gates to other opportunities, and so Shenandoah is in a transitional state for us here. So it's exciting for us because you can handle a lot of different products. I know it's exciting for you, and they're growing in population. That was one of the things that we didn't talk about earlier, but that's part of what we know is going to be important for our workforce long term, is that we have to, it's a numbers game in many ways. And y'all are approximately what in population now? It's 40 something, I think, thousand?
Yeah, thanks, Jay.
Yeah.
Note that as homework. I should know that. No,
Yeah,
I
think
have,
it's 42.
Okay, I was thinking it was
Take
just
my
over
word for
50.
it.
Somewhere between that.
Yeah. Now that I've gotten myself in trouble with Stephanie on this, we're really coming to the end of wrapping this up. We know that if you were cooking, that it is not done yet. Let it cook the remaining time, the full 25 minutes with the aluminum foil on it. Take it out, let it cool before you remove it from the pan, and then take it out of the pan and put it on a cooling rack. You're going to love the results of this from the products made here in Shenandoah County. Yeah. You have anything else you want to say? Thanks for helping us host this. I really appreciate
No,
it.
we're glad that you chose Shenandoah County and highlighting some of our existing businesses, and we always look forward to working with you.
Yeah, likewise. We enjoy being here. There's a lot of opportunity. We hope that you enjoyed the show. This has been a little different from the shows that we have done in the past because this is a more complicated. I hope that if you didn't cook along, please make this beer bread. It's apple beer bread, just combines two of my most favorite things together, and it is a really great recipe that was developed with help from staff. I have to give a shout out to Jen Weaver. She's not going to get in front of the camera, but she did a lot to make this recipe work. My own wife was also engaged with this in doing it, and this is a beer bread that is just fantastic. So we appreciate it. Our next show will be in November. We are speeding things up a little bit. It's going to be cooking again, and it's going to be Thanksgiving themed. And we're going to do something that is not only an ingredient that, or a dish that is relative to the Shenandoah Valley, but it's a native dish as well. It's going to involve corn. and cornbread. We'll talk about that later.
My
So
favorite
it'll be
things,
fun.
Thanksgiving and cornbread.
And
Yeah,
yes,
yeah.
exactly. So with that, if you don't have any questions, we will wrap it up and let you go back to your beer bread and the rest of the day. And in the meantime, I've been given permission to pour a beer as we close out here. So hope that y'all have a great afternoon, and let us know if you liked it. Let us know what you thought about the beer bread. If you made it, take a picture, send it to us. I know Bowman would love to see a picture of the products there. Woodstock Brewhouse would love to see a picture. Stephanie would love to see a picture. Yes, I'm saying it for her, but I know that we're excited about this. And we appreciate your participation and hope that you learned something along the way as well. So we'll see you later. Bye. And obviously I don't do this for a living, Matt. But I've got some in here. There we go. Yeah, it's good.